Alright, so welcome to PAX East, everybody. I'm here with Dave Marshall from Dark Horse Comics. How are you today?
Good.
Are you enjoying Boston so far?
Yeah, I like it. A little chilly, but it's nice.
Just pulled you out of a little Dragon Age event, so everybody seems to be having a good time so far. Is it cool to be at events like this where you get to meet with the fans?
Oh yeah. We love to connect with the people that we produce all this stuff for, and people give us a lot of really great feedback on our projects.
So you guys have like the best of both worlds. You get to deal with your own original content, and then of course video game content. How awesome is it to work with some of the biggest franchise in all of gaming?
Yeah, it's a real treat. We were all fans of BioWare before we got to work with BioWare. I'm particularly excited about this Dragon Age Ultra Thetis we're putting out next month. Because we're finally getting to give to the public a lot of information that prior to now has only been shared internally at BioWare, or it's just been shared with us as we develop the comics program, or to just have everything easily accessible in one place. If you've played through all the games, there'll be a lot of stuff that you recognize, but it also presents that with never before seen concept art and new codex entries by Brother Jim TV and a bunch of other in-world personalities, and so I'm really excited that we were able to work with BioWare to bring that kind of project to life.
Do you like the fact that you're able to kind of delve further into a universe that a lot of people always want more of? Like BioWare does great stuff with Mass Effect and Dragon Age, as you said. So you kind of get to take a little bit further. That must be pretty cool to create that.
Yeah, one of the advantages of working with BioWare is that we team up directly with the developers to develop all of our projects. We have this new series for Mass Effect coming out in July, Mass Effect Foundation. It's going to be 13 issues written by Mac Walters, who's plotting and scripting. So nobody knows the Mass Effect universe better than the lead writer of Mass Effect.
Sure.
And so with these comics, we get to contribute to the canon of the games. The Foundation series is going to feature a lot of the key Norman crew members, and it's going to span the entire trilogy. Being able to add to the Mass Effect universe, working directly with the people that created it, is really great.
So you've got a lot of I should be on silent, right? You've got a lot of art books coming out too. I know I saw something about The Last of Us and Remember Me. What can you tell me about those?
So we have in June we have an art book for The Last of Us and an art book for Remember Me coming out. Both of those we don't launch right around the game launch. And these books are really conceived of as a behind-the-scenes look at the development process. There are thousands of pieces that are created in the development of beautiful work that doesn't necessarily get seen outside of the studio. And so we really wanted to bring that material to the fans to show exactly how they took an initial concept to a final game, and all of the captions and all of the text in the book is written by the artists and developers who created the content, so they have a really unique perspective. You can provide a really intimate look into what made these games work.
Very cool. So have you? Everybody's pretty excited about The Last of Us. I would imagine being able to see some of that inside information, stuff like that, you must be even more excited. How excited should fans be?
Oh yeah, I think it's with any great development studio, every game is an evolution over the past. I think this is no exception. I think people are going to be really impressed by the emotional engagement that they have with these characters and how richly realized the world is. I think the gameplay is really important to reinforce the narrative that they built into the game. So it is going to be really exciting.
Cool. Now, when you guys are developing, the different comics and art books and stuff like that, do you guys get to go, hands-on with the products as you're kind of developing it?
We usually go to the studio and meet with the team and talk about their goals for the projects. They'll show us the material, and we collaborate very closely because we know that the more that our books are an authentic reflection of the game, the more it's going to have value to fans and they're going to connect with we're doing a 4-issue comic series that starts next month that it leads into the game, and that was co-written by the writer on the game and the artist Victor Hicks, and we always try to involve the developers really closely so that there is that clear direct link between the books and the movies.
Very cool. So I know you had something on YouTube too as well. Little mini comics. That was pretty cool. I just checked that out a bit. What was that like?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, the new Tomb Raider was going to be a really great game. We saw what they were working on. So I'm glad that the game is out now. The reviews are out, and people realize like this is really a brand new day on this storied franchise. So we wanted to be a part of that. So Brianna Pratchett, who wrote the game, wrote this comic that was packaged in Best Buy, and we are going to be doing a new Tomb Raider comic for the first time in years. We've announced that we're doing it. As far as when and who, it's still
it must be pretty gratifying to know that like there's a group of fans of that game that probably bought the game specifically because the book came with it. I know that has obviously been true with other franchises we've done that stuff with. It must be pretty cool to know that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we really made our mission statement to create meaningful additions and contributions to these universes that matter to people. That's why we work so closely with the developers and how we're very careful about the kind of products that we get involved with. We want to work on games that we're fans of, and we want to make sure that if we can't add something meaningful to that universe, then we shouldn't be working on it.
Speaking of meaningful contributions, nice little segue. This week we launched Star Wars Legacy, another comic. You also have the relaunch of the Star Wars line.
Yeah.
I know that it's not necessarily your field, but you guys must be pretty stoked to work on such an epic franchise.
Yeah, I mean, we've worked on the Star Wars franchise for over 20 years. We've made a huge contribution to the expanded universe. We've seen characters show up in the show and show up in the prequel movies that first appeared in the comics, and in these new series, Legacy carries on the Solo legacy in the distant future after the trilogy. Then we have the new series, the new Star Wars monthly on Ryan Wood, by Carlos Tejada, and that's Luke, Leia, Han, like right after A New Hope, all new adventures, very accessible to anybody who's ever seen the original movies. So it's a lot of fun to watch.
So my favorite was Knights of the Old Republic. Are we gonna ever maybe see some Revan and Malak comics?
Well, we did 56 issues of Knights of the Old Republic,
right?
And that material is going to be collected into omnibuses starting later this year. It's already available in trades now, and we always try to be careful of the player's choices when it's related to our games, and Knights of the Old Republic was no exception. That certainly Revan is a tricky character to work with in the same way that in the Mass Effect comics we've avoided working with Commander Shepard at all because we don't want to violate any experience.
Right. I'll tell you one thing for me, like there was a spot where they showed Revan finding the mask of the Mandalorian mask, and like that part of the story was like literally the best single page in the entire arc.
Yeah.
I have all the graphic novels for that series, so I love it. So how is the industry changing with comics? I mean, I know that digital is becoming bigger and bigger. Are you finding it's starting to get close to being split, or do people still want to have the actual comic?
Well, one of the nice things that we've seen is that the digital audience is additive to the comics. It's not cannibalizing each other. And there was some fears of that initially. Those fears seem to be unfounded. And so we're seeing the comics audience expand to a group of people that weren't going to comic shops, but the people that were going to comic shops are still getting those great comics. So I mean, I think it's a great thing if we can reach more people, if we can reach people around the world who have these digital devices, but can't necessarily get their hands on comic books. I think it's a great thing for comics. The more avenues of distribution you have for the content, the more viable that content is. That means the more content you can produce.
I agree completely. I've always been the type that I want to have it in my hand, I want to see the artwork, but I got an iPad recently, and just seeing just how vibrant it is, especially with the Retina display, I'm starting to make the switch.
I see a lot of people who do both. I mean, I'm the same way. There are certain circumstances where it's more convenient for me to read a bunch of comics, on an iPad. Or there are other circumstances where I do want to have the print book in my collection, or because I don't want to have something with me that runs on batteries. There are all kinds of reasons why either one could be the best choice in a certain circumstance, and you don't have to pick one or the other. You can have both.
Yeah, cool. So I'd like to thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Dave Marshall from Dark Horse Comics, and check out all the great stuff. I'll have it all linked in the article. So we'll catch you next time, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Appreciate it.